most places will be dry with sunny spells as we head into the afternoon. In that sunshine, feeling warm, temperatures ranging from 14 across the far north, but widely into the low to mid-20s, 26 degrees there towards the southeast, feeling warm in those light winds. More of the same as we head into Thursday. Most places will be dry, a bit more cloud towards the east coast at first, that burning back to the coast. Elsewhere, increasing amounts of sunshine, feeling very warm as well, particularly towards the west, just isolated showers once again. It turns warmer still as we head into Friday. Temperatures could reach the high 20s, but without an increasing chance of heavy showers and thunderstorms.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
And action.
Sergeant, read my superstar panel. They're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You're with GB News and our top story tonight. Norfolk and Suffolk police have admitted that the personal information of over 1,000 people, including victims of crime and witnesses, was mistakenly released in response to a Freedom of Information request. Both forces have attributed the mistake to a technical issue. But in a joint statement, the forces said the data was hidden from anyone trying to open the files which were issued between April 2021 and March 2022. Figures from the Office for National Statistics show wages are rising at a record level in the 3 months to June to close the gap on price rises. Inflation's currently standing at 7.9%, but with regular pay growing by 7.8% for the last quarter, the director of the Office for National Statistics has suggested people's real pay is recovering. New figures on inflation will be released tomorrow. The Prime Minister says that with wages rising at their fastest level for 22 years, there is now light at the end of the tunnel. Rishi Sunak has said bringing inflation down is still his government's key priority.
It's inflation that's making people feel poorer. It's eating into the savings in their bank account, making sure there's less money that they have at the end of the month. And that's why we need to bring it down. And that's how we'll also bring down interest rates and ease the pressure on people's mortgages. Now, we are making progress. I'm not complacent, and we'll have more numbers this week, which hopefully show continued downward movement on inflation. But we've got to stick to the plan. That means taking the right, responsible decisions for the economy, being responsible with borrowing, with public sector pay. And if we do that, we will bring inflation down.
Any rise in rail fares in England next year will be below the rate of inflation. The Department for Transport says the increase will not be as high as the rise in the retail price index, which normally dictates rail fares. The government has vowed to continue to protect rail passengers with the soaring cost of living. Any rises will be delayed until March next year, rather than being brought in January. Now, the Home Office has exclusively revealed to GB News today there's been a huge increase in undocumented migrants exploiting rules to work in the food delivery sector. It says restaurants and small businesses offering delivery services are now being urged to carry out more detailed checks on their drivers to crack down on scams. Home Office officials say working in the shadow economy, as it's known, is a major pull factor for those embarking on often dangerous and illegal journeys to the UK. Now, Madonna has announced the new dates for her Celebration World Tour, marking 40 years at the top of the music business. The singer was due to start the tour in Canada last month before she announced a plan to reschedule the North American leg following a stay in intensive care. The Celebration World Tour will now kick off in London on October the 14th. You're with GB News across the UK on your TV, in your car, on digital radio, and now on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me to wrangle with Wednesday's newspapers are two comedic cowboys, Lewis Schaefer and Francis Foster. I always think cowboy's quite homoerotic, isn't it?
I don't know. I think, yeah.
I can see you on a bison or at a rodeo, Lewis. Do you know what I mean?
You could see me eating maybe the bison or eating
You'd eat
the
it
rodeo.
raw, wouldn't you? You absolutely would. Why have you got your award?
Because I was given this award. This is my award for being for most Ofcom complaints for Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah,
so I've got that. I think
Let's
you
put
should
it down though off the top. We tidy the desk up, Lewis. It's a bad start. It looks unprofessional. You make the show look unprofessional.
Oh, sorry.
You do these kind of silly.
Not me personally. This makes me.
What do you? How are you, Francis?
I'm very well. I'm delighted to be here, Doyley.
Yeah. Well, as always, it's a delight to have you. We're going to start by looking at the front covers of Wednesday's newspapers. The Daily Mail is leading with spies who came in from suburbia. This is going to be the big story all night. The Telegraph. Also, Russia's Northolt spy ring arrested. The Mirror, spies next door. Very dramatic there from the Mirror and the Financial Times. Trump doubles down on Georgia vote fraud claims after fresh charges. We're going to get to that in a moment. The Guardian has Bulgarian suspected of spying in UK for Russian security services. And the Daily Star go completely off-piste with the Da Vinci Code. I've cracked it, mate. A story about the Knights Templar. Never say they're not on the pulse. Those were your front pages. And we're going to kick off with the Daily Mail now. So, Lewis, what are they leading with?
Well, they're leading with this spies thing, quote-unquote spies. I guess you're not allowed to say spies because they might offend them or something. Spies who came in from suburbia. They're 3 Bulgarians.
Yes.
And the 2 guys are, like, really proper ugly. And
For goodness sake, Lewis, this isn't about their looks.
But it is. If you're going to be a spy, you want them to be like James Bond. You want it to be like
Well, you don't, because a beautiful person, you'd obviously assume that was a spy. That's the thing about James Bond. You know, if you want, we all know the James Bond films. If you want to commit espionage these days, you have to be a munter.
I guess so, and these guys are munters. Yeah, thank you for pointing out that I hadn't thought about it much. Anyway, they're Bulgarians, and the Bulgarians like the Russians, and I mean, not that they're like, they are a bit like the Russians.
What does that mean? They're like the Russians?
They like the Russians.
Oh, they like the Russians.
They like the Romanians. Don't like the Russians. It like leaps every country like this, but the most. Is it says from suburbia, they came in from suburbia, so there are 3 of them, and they're living in Harrow and Great Yarmouth.
Yes.
But I would hardly call Harrow the suburbia, and Great Yarmouth is one of my favourite towns in all of Britain.
Well, I used to live in Harrow.
Yeah.
It's not really suburbia, is it?
No, it isn't.
Very much London. What do you think of all this spy business, Francis?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting, but what it underlines is that we are very much at war with Russia. Even though we pretend not to be, this is a Cold War, and you can't trust them.
A little bit of casual xenophobia there.
Yeah, it's fine, but when you're at war...
You work with a Russian.
I do, and that's how I know.
Yeah, but, you know, we have really been in and out of a kind of Cold War with them for what with the Litvinenko thing, what with the poisoning.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been this rumbling, this undercurrent of this kind of thing happening. So there's nothing new.
No, and I think you're pointing out the most salient fact about this, that this is propaganda, probably. It's like yes, it's all about making us afraid of the Russians again, and I'm old, so I remember being afraid of the Russians.
You don't want to be afraid.
No. I am with the propaganda. Don't trust them.
Afraid of the Russians, right?
Okay, I don't trust them either, but I think what we're doing now is making it way worse.
Anyway, it's certainly a dramatic story. We're going to move on to the front cover of the Daily Telegraph. For Wednesday, what are they running with, Francis?
So they are running with a very interesting story, which is...
well, they've got the spies.
No, well, yeah, so the spies, the Health Secretary has commissioned the Marks and Spencer's boss, Steve Rowe, to cut waste in the NHS, because when you're trying to cut waste in the NHS, you need somebody who knows about pants and sandwiches.
Yeah, but one of the things he's saying, patients could skip GP for cancer checks.
Well, this is it. So if somebody feels that they are displaying for instance, a significant cancer symptom, let's say coughing up blood, which is a traditional sign of lung cancer, they will not have to go to a GP, and the reason for that is it's impossible to get an appointment at the GP unless you do 6 roly-polies, pray to the devil, and then call between the hours of 8 and 8:01 a.m.
That's right.
So, as a result of that, they're saying, well, you don't have to do that, and you will go straight to the hospital, like they do in Monopoly, don't pass go, go straight to jail.
I would have thought if you're coughing up blood, you should go straight to the hospital. That would be my suggestion anyway.
Absolutely.
Lewis, I mean, you have health concerns, don't you?
I mean, he is a health concern.
I have complete health concerns, and one of the most upsetting thing that I said to people is that cancer is not a genetic illness, and that the government and the NHS and the American medical system, everybody is treating it like it's a genetic thing.
Well, it can be genetic, but it can also be caused by external factors like smoking and various things like that.
No, it is not.
Even oxygen is a carcinogenic. I heard that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it's something you can acquire at any time. So not even you, on your brilliant beast-only diet, can possibly avoid this. Potentially.
Yes, no, that is true.
Yeah.
I mean, because what causes cancer is some kind of something to the mitochondria of the cells.
I'm never going to ask you for health advice.
No, listen to...
You don't even know the words.
I don't know the words, but I know exactly what happens. What happens is we need to stop eating sugar to stop cancer. That's the most important.
This is your man. Do you think stopping eating sugar will solve every problem in the world?
You know what? It pretty much will, and because cancer's only been around for 100 years.
Also on the front cover of that's absolutely not true.
No, that is totally true.
Ridiculous.
That is totally true.
On the front cover,
people can Google it. They can Google it. Stephenson. They can Google. Albert Schweitzer. He tested over 40,000 people in Africa and Gabon, and they're not one case of cancer.
There are people in the Renaissance period who died of cancer. We can look at their symptoms retrospectively and work out what...
A few of them did because they were overdosing with sugar. All those people.
They were eating fruit pastels.
They were eating. Let them eat cake. They were eating cake or alcohol, which is a type of sugar.
Okay.
But in the Eskimos had.
I'm going to put a stop to this. Francis, can you tell me about this Afghan story? This is also on the front cover of the Daily Telegraph.
I never thought I'd say these words, but let's hear more from Lewis.
Absolutely not. What you've got to understand, Francis, you've got to shut him down every now and then. And I know it's a free speech channel. That doesn't apply to Lewis Shaffer.
Yeah, the people get very upset about it.
Tell me about the Afghan story.
Right, OK, so the Afghan story is an Afghan war hero has now been appointed as the next chief of the British Army. It's Lieutenant General Walker.
Yes.
Rowley Walker, what a name. I mean, posh people have brilliant names. You've called Andrew, I'm called Francis, which is a terrible name. Although it's gender fluid, so my parents were ahead of the times. Rowley.
Is my name good? Is my name good?
Yeah, it's
Lewis.
all right, Lewis.
But look, this guy, he survived a Taliban assassination attempt.
Yeah.
He's been in the trenches. He's, white. This is great.
Yeah, but you know that posh people's lives are too easy when they call their kids Rowley.
You're assuming...
Imagine if you went to a comprehensive in South London called Rowley. You would get the living daylights beaten out of you, and rightly so.
Assuming a lot about General Walker, who I'm sure is a wonderful man. Anyway, we're going to move... I'm sure he is. We're going to move on to The Guardian now. The Guardian, what are they leading with? Well, there's a photo of some ladies who I think are sports ladies.
You know what? I'm with you. I mean, honestly, these are a proud moment in the women's game. It's women's football, and
you enjoy it.
I think they're hot. They're beautiful girls.
Lewis, not hot, mate.
Yeah, mate.
not that.
No, you don't care. That should be your thing because you don't find them interesting. The truth is, in America, the American girls team lost to the under-15 boys team.
Yeah, but the under-15 boys team aren't eligible to play in the Women's World Cup.
No, they're not. That's how they identify, you transphobe.
OK, Francis, can you tell me about this story? Evidence to acquit Malkinson not acted on for years. This is also on the front cover of The Guardian.
Yeah, so this is an absolutely horrendous story with this man, Andrew Malkinson, who was in prison for, I think, 17 years for rape. And he's completely innocent of this. And the reason he was in prison for so long is because he consistently denied that he had done that, because he was innocent. And the worst bit of it is, not only was he in prison for this amount of time, but the Crown Prosecution Service sat on evidence which proved that he was innocent.
And why did they do that?
Why did they do that? Because
they're cops.
Well, no, we've seen quite a lot of this. We had there were some cases after the Me Too scandal where the police in this country were caught sitting on evidence that they knew would exonerate people who were falsely accused of rape. This is very serious stuff because it also means that when people are accused who actually did it, it kind of undermines the actual... Because then people start being mistrustful.
Well, they do start being mistrustful, and the reason is because nobody wants to admit that a heinous miscarriage of justice has been carried out, where an innocent man has been placed in prison. But also, and not only just in prison, he's in a sex offender's wing.
But also because rape cases the charge rate is very, very low. People get away with it. This is the problem. So I suppose the feeling is, well, let's just prosecute as much as possible.
Right, and this is just one, and they're afraid to... I think what it is they don't want to bring the numbers down. That means that their clearance rate is even worse.
Yep. Yeah. OK, well, we've got just time for this last story, which is the front cover of the Daily Star, a Knights Templar story. We don't get enough of those, Francis.
We don't get enough of those. And I'm going to be honest with you, Andrew. Who would have predicted that it'd be the Daily Star?
No, it's very learned of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it's really exciting if you're a bit of a history buff and a medieval history buff, which I know you are, Mr. Doyle, or Dr. Doyle, as I should call you.
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. So
are you really a doctor?
Well, I'm a doctor of poetry.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So it doesn't really count.
No, but it's
I'm
still
as much of a doctor as you are.
Yeah. No, you're a bit more than I am.
Anyway, go on, Francis. So what have the Knights Templar done?
So they've discovered new graves of the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
And it's just really exciting.
It is, because they were a mysterious bunch, weren't they, the Knights Templar? And they are the basis of the story behind the Da Vinci Code and that kind of thing. And
absolutely. So if you're into history, it's really exciting. They were a wealthy and mysterious military organisation founded in 1119 of devout Christians. And hopefully it will actually lead us to understand more of who these people actually were. Well, men.
Which is why, but this story has even greater import. It just shows how important it is to leave the graves alone in the cemeteries and the graveyards, churchyards of the country. And what they want to do, what the cemetery industry wants to do, is they want to reuse graves, which means obliterating the history.
Okay.
And this kind of thing would never be found.
Yeah, we need to crack down on big cemetery.
Right, let's move on. We are out of time for this section. That is the front pages pummeled. Come back for some more pugilistic action with Trump in trouble, ex-police in trouble, and basically all men in trouble. So see you in a couple of minutes.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and despite our best efforts in the interval, it's still Lewis Schaefer and Francis Foster with me tonight. We're going to kick off with Wednesday's Mail now with Trump getting a kicking. Lewis, how do you feel about that?
Again, I feel kind of like anyway. The story is Donald Trump and 18 others indicted by prosecutors in Georgia. This is not the hush money trial. This is not the classified documents trial. No, this is something totally different. This is about he wanted to overturn the results of an election, and you have to be. I have to. Basically, this is. It's all headed down the pan.
Well, there's a lot being thrown at him at the moment. He describes it as a witch hunt, which is actually what he's described everything as, basically.
Because he's done so much stuff. He's opened his mouth, and everything that they've said, they could say, he called somebody up and said, can you do something? That doesn't mean he's trying to overthrow an election.
I mean, he's certainly got a big mouth. And that's the problem. Like, with the January 6th, for instance, he was clearly raising the temperature. But I don't think what he said was incitement or would be classified legally as incitement, but people are throwing that get his way. What do you think of this, Francis? Because is it not the case that the more that they throw at Trump and the more that they behave like this, the more they play into his narrative that he is the subject of a witch hunt?
I actually think it's very worrying, Andrew, because at the moment, the United States is a powder keg. And what we're seeing in 2023 is the calm before the storm. And things are going to get very heated and things are going to turn very ugly in 2024 when the election gets into full swing.
In what sense, though?
Because what you have is both sides thinking that and feeling that their country is at stake.
Yes.
So, as a result of that, with Trump, they now feel that their guy is being unfairly targeted and it's political and they're trying to get rid of him.
So what you're saying is actually a lot of these actions that have been taken against Trump are not wise.
No, they're not wise because you don't calm down a hornet's nest by effectively walking up to it and kicking it right where it hurts.
And the thing is, at this point, absolutely, you know, he could be found with blood on his hand holding the knife over a dead body and his supporters still wouldn't believe he did it. You know, we've had, you know, the last time when Trump won in 2016, loads of prominent Democrats said he didn't really win, it's a false election, it's false results. When Trump lost then in 2020, he said, and a lot of his supporters said, no, that's not real. In other words, each side is basically completely blinkered at this point, which is why they're now talking about a national divorce. Why not just have red states and blue states and never the twain shall meet? What do you think of that, Lewis?
Well, I think that, if I had to put money on it, I would put money on it because Donald Trump, he's going to get found guilty in Georgia or this other place. You think? Right? Yeah, he will. He'll escape to maybe Florida. The Florida people won't extradite him, and then there'll be a war between the blue states versus the red states.
Alarmist. That is quite alarmist, but then both of you have been quite alarmist here. Yeah. Maybe it'll all just calm down, and maybe we'll have some candidates who are just normal.
No,
that's not going to happen. No, he's going to be in prison campaigning via Zoom, isn't he?
What's going to happen? He's going to become the first jailbird president, isn't he?
Goodness me. Right, well, we're going to go to the Mirror now, and the Tories want to throw the baby out with the heat-pumped water, Francis?
Well, this is actually a very interesting story. Furious right-wing Tories call for vote on ripping up green pledges. So what Rishi Sunak is seeing is a rebellion from the right wing of the Tory party. And actually, these MPs do have a point because their argument effectively is, Andrew, nobody has voted for these net zero pledges. Nobody has really agreed to it. They're punishing the poorest in society. And not only that, we are in a cost of living crisis where people are having to pay more for their mortgages, their rents, their petrol, their food. Everything has become more and more expensive. Inflation has gone through the roof. So people's wages no longer go as far as they used to. And now they're expected to tolerate net zero. Approval for these policies have now gone through the floor. I think what you're starting to see is real pushback to these policies, which are becoming unaffordable.
What do you think, Lewis?
I think that the term, first of all, the term net zero, it just reminds me you're going to net zero, which means you're going to come away with nothing.
Yeah, it's a bad phrase given the implications for the poorer people.
But the other side of it is, not the other side, it's called a green issue.
Yes.
When you reduce CO2, it actually stops the green in the entire world. The plants need a certain level of CO2, not 100% CO2. They need a certain level. The more CO2 you add to the environment, the greener the world gets. So this is a am I being pedantic?
No, I love it when you get all scientific.
It's not being scientific. I'm actually looking at the actual word.
Yeah.
The word is green, means let's save a tree, let's save a plant. This is
well, I could listen to this all night, but we've got to go to the Times now, Francis, where the police can be the wokest institution while simultaneously containing so many wrong-uns.
Well, this is actually a very interesting story because it is not what it appears on the title.
Okay.
Ex-Met police officers charged with sending racist WhatsApp messages. So you go, OK, this is obviously awful. And the Met said the officers who retired between 2001 and 2015 have been charged under the Communications Act 2003.
Yes.
Here's where it gets interesting. The 6 men were not serving at any point during their participation.
Oh.
So these retired police officers essentially had a WhatsApp group where they did a bit of banter. They have been investigated by the police, found that they're worthy to be charged and have now been charged under this act. And you're thinking to yourself, instead of investigating, former police officers' WhatsApp group. How about you go and look for some rapists, mate?
So this is actually not what I thought it was then. And the other thing about this story, Lewis, is this article doesn't quote the WhatsApp messages, and I'm slightly mistrustful of this, because it could be, as you say, and I know the way that some of my friends joke on WhatsApp, if you read it without any sense of humour and read it in a literal-minded way...
We've all seen Leo's tweets.
We've seen Leo's messages. Then you would think this was horrible stuff. If you know the person and you know it's a joke... then you know it's
worse.
a joke. Right? Well, it's even worse. So, look, my point is, because they're not quoted, I can't tell. Are these jokes? Because there probably could be.
Well, it could be jokes, but even if it's not jokes, who the hell cares? It's end-to-end encrypted. It's a private group. That's the thing about this country. This is the thing that you brought me into this world. The amount of censorship that's going on in this country is shocking.
I didn't bring you to England.
You didn't bring me to England, but I wasn't totally involved in all of this stuff.
You were in blissful
You
ignorance.
destroyed me, Andrew. And I think the people out there, they should be in shock. There's no reason why any of this stuff should ever see the light of day.
That's because you come from a country which has a First Amendment, which believes in freedom of speech. We don't. We have a thing called hate speech, and we prosecute people under the Communications Act.
Okay, if you do, then just say, hey, we're in England, we don't believe in freedom of speech. But you do, not you do, but they do.
No, a lot of people don't believe in freedom of speech.
We just believe in consequence culture.
Consequence culture, yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it is, mate.
We're going to move on to this one. Hamza Youssef in The Guardian. What's all this about toxic masculinity? What do you know about this?
Yeah, well, I do know about it because I'm any kind of male thing. It's men in power must take the lead on tackling toxic masculinity, says Hamza Youssef, and he's the head of the SNP, and they're on the way out. I think they're on the way out, possibly, maybe not. I don't know how entrenched.
No, I doubt it. But I mean, what's he saying? That he's saying that it's not good enough that. Basically, we can say, oh, it's not all men. Not all men are terrible. That all men collectively have to take responsibility for other men, which is a kind of identitarian position, which does accord with what we know about Hamza Youssef's politics.
What do you consider to be toxic masculinity? If a guy comes into your flat to fix your toilet, is that toxic masculinity?
Well, what I would say is toxic masculinity is the way that the SNP have basically run roughshod over women's rights and have tried to obliterate their single-sex spaces. Why doesn't Hamza Youssef, Francis, deal with the misogyny in his own party first?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I actually think Hamza, he has extremist policies, and one of them, there's people going, you can't say that. But here's the point. He was in favour of criminalising speech in people's homes.
Not only was he in favour, he was the Justice Secretary at the time and orchestrated that draconian hate speech bill. So he's an authoritarian.
So you could say something in your living room, in a personal conversation, and it becomes the state's business to investigate and prosecute you.
Yeah, Francis, this was the story we did just before about what about the
WhatsApp groups. But the thing is here, this is why I'd be very nervous about Hamza Youssef, berating other people about toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, before he's saying that people should be effectively criminalised for having an opinion on religious groups.
Yeah.
What about this? Maybe he'll start criminalising people for, I don't know, banter.
He is a complete authoritarian, and it is terrifying that he is in charge of Scotland.
Yeah. And he's
really worrying.
And can I say this? He's a self-admitted misogynist himself.
Did he say that?
He said that. He said, without a doubt, in my younger years, I have told a misogynistic joke at the expense of women. He's a misogynist.
I mean, that's...
Well, I want to know...
It's called his policies, mate.
Yeah, well... What is he? I don't want to get into a fight with the guy.
No, because of course all your jokes have been very pure.
If
suitable for children, I think children's part.
He's does that make him a self-admitted misogynist?
Well, in a way, but it's a silly thing to admit if it's just a joke. But anyway, we're at the halfway point now. But do come back to see if Lewis gets cancelled talking about either Stonewall overreach, a man in charge of menstruation, or Snow White. See you in a minute.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, most areas enjoyed a dry day on Tuesday, and it's more of the same as we head into Wednesday. Dry and fine for many. Yes, there will be some isolated showers around, but most places will be dry and in that sunshine, feeling quite warm. We look at the pressure pattern then, you can see it's all thanks to this area of high pressure that continue to build in across the country. That's what's settling things down, and that's what's going to lead to a dry night tonight for the vast majority. Clear skies across England and Wales, Northern Ireland, but a bit more cloud across parts of Scotland with a few showers continuing at least through the start of the night. But under those clear skies, we could see one or two mist and fog patches patches, and also turn quite chilly as well in some rural spots. Temperatures falling into single figures in more prone spots. But in towns and cities, temperatures holding up 10 to 13 degrees Celsius. So under those clear skies, we get off to a fine start for much of the country. Some early sunshine. Any mist and fog patches are lifting quite readily. Again, we hang on to a bit more cloud across parts of Scotland, with a few showers here continuing throughout the day. Elsewhere, we could see 1 or 2 isolated showers, but again, you'll be fairly unlucky to catch one. Most places will be dry with sunny spells as we head into the afternoon. In that sunshine, feeling warm, temperatures ranging from 14 across the far north, but widely into the low to mid-20s, 26 degrees there towards the southeast, feeling warm in those light winds. More of the same as we head into Thursday. Most places will be dry, a bit more cloud towards the east coast at first, that burning back to the coast. Elsewhere, increasing amounts of sunshine, feeling very warm as well, particularly towards the west, just isolated showers once again. It turns warmer still as we head into Friday. Temperatures could reach the high 20s, but with that increasing chance of heavy showers and thunderstorms.
That warm feeling inside. From boxed boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. We're going to go straight back in with The Guardian. What's this about? The Health Minister. This one's for Francis.
Indeed. So the Health Minister says Stonewall should not write gender policies for the NHS bodies. And this is Will Quince. And he has said that essentially Stonewall should have no part in the writing gender policies in the NHS. And I think that every single person, apart from a small selection of nutbags, agree with this.
Well, Stonewall, of course, have been responsible for a lot of the NHS's dodgy policies. One of them is that they have a single-sex accommodation, male wards and female wards, which have been in place since Andrew Lansley back in 2010. But actually, they don't do that. They accommodate according to gender self-ID.
Yes.
So if I go on a ward and I say I'm actually non-binary and I want to be on the women's ward, no member of staff is allowed to say, well, you can't do that. Now, Lewis, that's a real problem because that is clearly open to exploitation.
Well, it is, but it also presumes that women are vulnerable.
Well, they are. I mean,
back in the day, you would have gotten in trouble for saying that.
Well, no, but the stats speak for themselves. The overwhelming number of sexual assaults are towards women and committed by men. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but you could also say that the greatest number of automobile accidents are with people whose eyesight, I don't know.
No, you're just making it up as you go along.
Yeah, but it could be. But it could be something like that.
It could be perceived as offensive, but
and you can't go.
I sort of don't care because these are the most vulnerable people in society. These are the sick, the unwell.
Yeah.
They need to be protected, and
Is
they
that
also
the
need to have
reason
their
you're
dignity.
doing? Is that the reason you're doing it, Andrew? Honestly,
don't try and peer into my soul.
Yeah, I think
this is what you try and do. Because, I don't trust it. I don't like it. It creeps me out.
I think the problem is this LGBT. The T thing is so recent.
Well, it's not just T, it's TQ+.
Right.
TQIA+.
TQIA+. Now, the problem with all of that stuff is that's got nothing to do with the LGB sort of thing.
Yeah.
Stonewall is very much prioritising the last 3 digits there, TQIA+, or whatever, however.
I love the asexuals.
The asexuals.
I love them.
Yeah.
They just get dragged in.
Yeah,
they just get dragged in.
No,
Since when did not wanting to have sex make you an oppressed minority?
It didn't. It never did and never will. Anyway, the point is here, right? The point is here that Stonewall have been effectively damaging NHS policy, putting people at risk. And in a medical facility, you need to understand the difference between men and women. And this doesn't mean that you're not respectful and kind to trans people. What it means is that you recognise that you have to acknowledge biological reality in these circumstances. That shouldn't be controversial. And it's good, I think, that Stonewall's been driven out of this.
I completely agree with you. But, interestingly, it's not just Stonewall have abandoned them. The BBC have abandoned them as well. So what is great about this is that showing that Stonewall have been completely and utterly lost all their relevancy.
Yep.
And it's great.
OK, but we're going to move on now.
Can I not agree?
Because I'm in charge. But who better than our very own female biology expert, Dr. Schaefer, to explain this Telegraph mental menstrual story? What's this about?
It is mental. It's one of the funniest stories that I've read, and we've read here. Male, quote, period poverty czar sues for sex discrimination after being sacked. And this is up in the Tay side, which is up by Aberdeen. That's the Tay. The Tay up there. It's up there in Scotland, and the people in Scotland are a bit... It's funny because the whole story's funny because it's like they hired a guy to be a period poverty czar.
This guy, Jason Gray. Not even a guy who identifies as female, by the way.
Yeah, just a regular... Just a guy. Number 2, he wants to make people aware of the availability of products such as tampons.
Well, no, look, here's the thing. You could conceivably do the job, right, insofar as you can learn about... You don't have to be female to learn about periods. But I would suggest I'd just be a bit embarrassed to accept that job because it's like that should clearly go to someone who understands it on an intimate level.
But women become referees in football matches.
But similar... OK, I'm not going to... You'll get me into trouble.
Yeah, listen, look, I just believe if you want something done properly, you just need to get a man involved. And, that's the most important thing. You need men to sort stuff out. He came in, I'm sure he absolutely smashed it. Women became jealous, and that's the problem. Jealousy is what
we're going to get some tweets. We're going to get some tweets. We're going to move on to the Telegraph now, and this one, Dr. Charlotte Proudman. This is an incredible character on Twitter. What's she done now?
I love her. I think she's absolutely...
She's like a parody account.
It is like a parody account, and it's wonderful. So she went back to her alma mater and went to get a photo of herself with the statue of Henry VI, which is on the lawn.
This is King's College, Cambridge, I should say.
Yeah, that's it. King's College, Cambridge. And she went to get her photo done. And it meant she trod on the hallowed lawns of the college.
No, she had a photograph taken where she was posing like a tourist sort of your arms splayed, like, without a gown on.
Yeah.
Now, because PhD graduates from the college are allowed to walk on the lawn. It's a privilege of theirs. So she interpreted this as sexism. Why did someone call over and say, get off the lawn? Because you looked like a tourist. You weren't wearing the gown. They wouldn't have at all done that if you'd been wearing the gown.
Well, exactly. And he didn't actually say get off the lawn. He actually was a lot more polite in that. He said, you're going to need to get off the lawn, otherwise you're going to get chucked out.
Right, that's fair enough.
So that's a warning.
So, Lewis, what do you... I mean, she tweets some crazy stuff. Like, she's proper identitarian kind of...
Yes, she is.
Nuts.
She is nuts, but at the same time, this country is so nuts. Like, there's a rule over this lawn, and that nobody even knows what the rule is, but you're supposed to know what the rule is.
There's a big sign saying, stay off the lawn.
Yeah, but they don't know exactly what it is. And number two, the guy was basically assuming she was a student and not a professor or whatever that had a right to work on the thing, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, they were paying her a compliment.
It was flattering.
She is flattering. She's a pretty girl.
She looks young and beautiful.
Yes, beautiful.
You've got to be careful, because when someone else did that, she posted the email on Twitter. This is how she became well known. Someone said, you look very nice on your LinkedIn profile. I believe it's the same person.
Yeah.
And she posted that saying, look at this misogyny.
Yeah.
So be careful, Lewis.
Yeah.
She'll post this clip.
Lewis, you'd love to show us some of your misogyny, wouldn't you?
I don't know what that means. We're going to move on. Now, what about this one in The Guardian? This story in The Guardian, it's a bit close to home, this one, Lewis.
Edinburgh Arts Venue, this is in The Guardian, Edinburgh Arts Venue axes Graham Linehan after complaints. And the Leith Arches, they were putting on a show with some crazy London, I call this place New York. Please bring me home. Comedians who were brought up there, and they didn't include that Graham Linehan, who is basically...
Why are you saying they? You know full well I organised this gig.
I'm going to get to that. I'm trying to figure out how to make it funny.
You're not... Well, listen, Lewis, I will explain myself here, because this is very unfair, obviously. We, Comedy Unleashed, which is my comedy night in London, we booked this night at the Leith Arches on the fringe of the fringe, OK, because we're too late to go into the fringe brochure. We did a kind of last minute, let's go up there and do a show at the fringe, because we believe in free thinking comedy, free speech, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be good to have Graham Linehan, because he's a brilliant comedic writer, one of the best in the country. You know, we announced him initially as being a cancelled comedian, a fun secret thing, because we knew it would sell out anyway.
Yeah.
And then we announced it yesterday, 24 hours later, the whole thing is cancelled.
So you're not willing to take any responsibility for, like, springing it on these people?
Well, it was a fun thing. We were saying we had this cancelled comedian.
Not for them, Andrew.
No, but I
it was
thought,
triggering.
I thought that a few days before the show, it would be too late to cancel.
Exactly, too late. But they proved you wrong.
Well, it's only a few activists, Francis, contacting the venue, and then it's...
We don't know about that. The venue was against it, so they obviously felt it was important to them.
Look, this is not the first time this has happened. We saw last year with the case of Jerry Sadowitz, who is arguably one of the greatest ever stand-up comedians that this country has ever produced.
Yeah.
His show was cancelled because some people got offended. And what this shows, at its core, is the comedy industry in this country is completely finished.
Yeah.
It's done. It's broken. There is no way that you can do interesting comedy. There is no way that you can push boundaries. There is no way that you can be truly transgressive, because if you are, you will lose your venue, you will lose your right to perform, and your own colleagues within the industry will come out in an attempt to destroy your career. The thing is finished.
We've actually seen this tonight. There have been some comedians that I know have come out and they love the fact that our show's been cancelled.
Yes, and I will say this to them. If you are one of those comedians who celebrates at the fact that your colleague or a gig has been cancelled, just know that you are a moron and you have the IQ of a fungal infection. You're useless. You may think that's harsh, and you're right, because fungal infections have some type of use in this world.
Francis,
are pointless.
The more sort of generous thing to say would be, well, look, you know, you can't be sure you're always going to be on the right side of popular opinion.
No,
at some point they'll come for you, because you know, Graham Linehan, who, you know, he's a brilliant comedy writer. He's been accused of transphobia and hate, neither of which is true, by the way. He's for women's rights and gay rights, and that's what he's been campaigning for. And they're really angry about that, and they won't let him perform. I think the idea that one of our top comedy minds shouldn't perform on the Edinburgh Fringe because a few activists are upset is insane. And no one would have thought this could happen 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Are you going to get a new venue for Comedy Unleashed in Edinburgh?
We're going to try and get a new venue.
Okay.
Are you going to book me then? That's the most important bit, mate. This is what the people want.
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
Maybe.
OK, that's the end of this section.
I've got a joke I can do for you.
Francis, just one more section to go where we talk to Jesus, we fight a chimp, and we declare our love. You will not want to miss that.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. And Lewis, time to put that imaginary PhD into practice and explain this one from Wednesday's Mail.
This is unexplainable because it's done by physicists. And scientists discovered the elusive, quote, demon particle, unquote, I don't know how you say it in this country, nearly 70 years after it was first predicted. And it could be the holy grail of superconductors. And this is one of those camp stories. Could be, maybe, possibly. Sometime in the future it could change the entire world.
What does it do, the demon particle?
But the demon particle makes semiconductors.
Are you talking about sugar again, Lewis?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that's a good... Would you not make jokes while I'm talking? That's not right. I can barely come up. I'm trying to be like a presenter here.
Let him explain. I want to see if he gets this one right.
Yeah, what it is they want it to be a superconductor, which enables electrons to go through electricity very fast or unimpeded.
Okay, well that sounds impressive.
Which would be brilliant. But they call this a massless particle, and a particle is a bit of something. It cannot be massless, and that's the thing about physicists. And I've told Francis about this, is that physicists are people who want other people to think that they're smart.
There we go. I knew we'd have a dig at the scientists. Francis, what do you think about this?
This is way above my pay grade, mate. I've read it. I still don't understand it. Mate, I got a 2-2 in drama from Essex University. Why are you asking me to comment on particle physics?
We'll come to you when we've got a story about Timberlake Wurtenbaker or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly,
that.
mate.
Go
Or
on,
just
go on to the sun next.
Yeah, exactly. This is my level, mate.
All right,
It's right here.
let's talk about this. Are you ready to talk to God, Francis?
Yes. Now, this is an AI app that lets you talk to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. So you can send them a message, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and they will reply in character, and you can ask them any question you want. Now, here's the catch, right? You want to talk to Satan, it's going to cost you $2.99 a month.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, what does Satan sound like?
Well, I don't know, but apparently, I think that's actually good business, because let's be fair, out of all of them, he's the most interesting.
See, this is the thing about AI. I mean, it really troubles me that for a start, they've talked about, like, resurrecting dead people, so you can talk to dead relatives through AI.
Yeah.
Talking to Jesus, are they just going to do that with sort of... Does he just say things like thy and thine and... You know, thy will be... Does he speak in that sort of old-fashioned King James version?
Well, whatever he says, it's not going to be true. It's not going to be true. And every time we have an AI story, I Google, because I paid £38 for this ChatGPT thing. I could have got it for free. And so I ask a question. Has comedian Louis Schaefer, ever appeared on American television?
Yes.
And according to ChatGPT, it says yes. Has made several appearances. Some notable shows he has appeared on, including Late Night with Conan O'Brien, The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, and has made appearances on NPR's This American Life.
I think you are talking to Satan there.
Yeah, this is not... I mean, anybody who knows, I've never been on American
Maybe you
TV.
have, you've just forgotten.
Hey, you know what? I've got to say, Lewis, that is the most comedian thing to do of all time. Go on an AI app, and then the first question you ask is about yourself.
Right, we're going to move on to this one now in the Star. What's this about chimps?
Oh, this is I don't think this story should even be included in this because it's so scary. Human versus chimp fight tested by scientists to discover who would win. So these quote-unquote scientists, who are basically the stupidest people on the planet, anybody who calls themselves a scientist, honest to God, is that they rated the chimp versus humans based on size, speed, biting strength, senses, brains. And they said, who would win a fight, a chimp or...
What's the answer?
And the answer is, do not Google who would win a fight because you won't get to sleep tonight.
No, I mean, this is scary, this sort of stuff.
Really scary.
I assume chimps would win.
Oh, chimps
would win. They have won really big time.
Yeah, chimps would win fights, but humans would win backgammon.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
so you don't need a scientific study for that particularly.
No.
We're going to move on to this one. What's this about, Lewis, The Guardian? Lewis, I love you.
Is this me? Is this me?
No,
Which
this
one?
is me.
This is an I love you story.
It isn't. And here's the thing: men are much quicker to declare their feelings than women.
Yeah.
So, this was the University of Aberdeen, and they have investigated this, and they found that men, on average, take 108 days to say the words "I love you."
That's very specific.
It is, and women take on average 122 days.
Yeah,
So men are more in touch with our emotions. We're kinder. We're better
No, they just
people.
men just want something. That's why they're saying I love you.
Yes, we want love.
No, they're trying to get something else. What do you think, Lewis?
I think there's a saying that I made up myself, is that women need to know everything about a man before they love them. So it takes a long time. And men, we need to know everything about a woman before we hate them.
So that's pearls of wisdom there from our resident misogynist, Louis Schaefer.
Yeah, well, no, it's a fact. It's like we look at a woman and our first thought is, oh, my God, you're so beautiful, please.
I think, actually, you should withhold the I love you anyway for a while, shouldn't you?
You should, but...
Because it takes the spice out of it, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Well, maybe, but here's the interesting thing, Doyley. There is 0.5% of the population
Be quick.
who do it after a week.
OK, that's all. Show's nearly over. We've got to have another look at Wednesday's front covers. Most of them going with the spy story, the Daily Mail, spies who came in from suburbia. The Telegraph has Russia's spy ring arrested. The Mirror, spies next door. And the Financial Times has Trump doubles down on Georgia vote fraud claims. We've got The Guardian with Bulgarians suspected of spying in the UK. And the Daily Star runs with a Knights Templar story about the Da Vinci Code. That is all we've got time for. Thank you to my wonderful guests, Lewis Schaefer and Francis Foster. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Paul Cox and Nick Dixon. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, please do stay tuned because now it's time for breakfast.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, most areas enjoyed a dry day on Tuesday, and it's more of the same as we head into Wednesday. Dry and fine for many. Yes, there will be some isolated showers around, but most places will be dry and in that sunshine, feeling quite warm. We look at the pressure pattern then, you can see it's all thanks to this area of high pressure that continue to build in across the country. That's what's settling things down, and that's what's going to lead to a dry night tonight for the vast majority. Clear skies across England and Wales, Northern Ireland, but a bit more cloud across parts of Scotland with a few showers continuing at least through the start of the night. But under those clear skies, we could see 1 or 2 mist and fog patches, and also turn quite chilly as well in some rural spots, temperatures falling into single figures in more prone spots. But in towns and cities, temperatures holding up 10 to 13 degrees Celsius. So under those clear skies, we get off to a fine start for much of the country. Some early sunshine, any mist and fog patches are lifting quite readily. Again, we hang on to a bit more cloud across parts of Scotland with a few showers here continuing throughout the day. Elsewhere, we could see 1 or 2 isolated showers, but again, you'll be fairly unlucky to catch one. Most places will be dry with sunny spells as we head into the afternoon. In that sunshine, feeling warm, temperatures ranging from 14 across the far north, but widely into the low to mid-20s, 26 degrees there towards the southeast, feeling warm in those light winds. More of the same as we head into Thursday. Most places will be dry, a bit more cloud towards the east coast at first, that burning back to the coast. Elsewhere, increasing amounts of sunshine, feeling very warm as well, particularly towards the west, just isolated showers once again. It turns warmer still as we head into Friday. Temperatures could reach the high 20s, but with that increasing chance of heavy showers and thunderstorms.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this?
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. 2 weeks today, the ULIS extension kicks in to the dismay and despair of many. But there is a way in which the government can stop it. Tonight, I'm going to tell you how. Things are moving on with the debanking scandal on the FCA. They're now going to have an inquiry. They want me to go and give evidence. I can't wait. And the National Trust, once a great revered institution of this country, has gone totally woke. But now there's a campaign to reclaim it. I'm all ears. First, though, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you to you and good evening. Now, our top story on GB News tonight, the Home Office